Hey everybody, this is Shield Maiden SA here, and I am here to bring you another Tabletop Tuesday. We are all the way up to session 8, and for the month of February, we have gone ahead and decided to go ahead and talk about some of the things that may be a little bit, I don't want to say challenging, but maybe intimidating for people that are new to playing D&D. Because of the fact that I did get some feedback that having the dual screens was really helpful for folks last week when we did the character sheet, I decided I'd go ahead and bring it in here. That way, there is some information here in these books and these pages. That way you can kind of see what we're looking at as we talk about various classes that you're going to need to pick for your character as you create that character in D&D. Now, as always, I am really bad about doing this, but I'm going to try and get better about it. If you like what we are doing here today, or if you have friends that think any of the information that I'm going to give you today is going to be helpful, feel free to go ahead and share this video, or even better yet, suggest that they follow the page. That way, they don't miss out on anything. So I'm going to go ahead and give everyone just a few minutes here to go ahead and get joined in on the live, because a lot of people are just getting that alert. I'm also going to get this shared out to a few folks. That way, like I said, for anybody that isn't already following us, it can definitely kind of help them know that it's time to join in on Tabletop Tuesday. So yeah, that's what we are doing today. So give me just one second here. So how was everybody's Tuesday so far? We are getting through that week. And, hey, it's one day closer to Friday. Of course, tomorrow we have New Comic Wednesday. I definitely owe you guys since I missed that last week due to being sick. There we go, just getting this kind of shared out there, because like I said, I know that there are probably some people that may find this information really super helpful. So I want to make sure we get that out there for them. And like I said, sometimes people, are here to, they're familiar with D&D. Sometimes they know that we're doing this. Sometimes they don't. So I want to make sure that they have the opportunity to join in on this conversation, host a watch party, invite friends, anything that's going to be helpful for those folks that are newer to D&D, that maybe they just, they think it's going to be useful information. Sometimes this is something that may even be helpful for people that are even more experienced players, because I think sometimes we all kind of get stuck in that rut of, the characters that we play. And as a result of that, because we get stuck in that rut, we always seem to be playing the same type of character. And this can happen whether we're talking about D&D, whether we're talking about an MMORPG, or anything of that nature as well. So I kind of feel like having some of this class background information here that we're going to talk about today is going to be helpful for just all kinds of folks. So let me just take a look here. I'm just making sure that I'm not missing anybody here who might want to join in on this. Because like I said, I, want to share the information out there because, hey, let's be really honest. If it's information that I can share with you guys, I am more than willing to go ahead and do that. And so bear with me just one moment here. There we go. Alright, so we've got that shared out there, and we're going to go ahead and get started on this. Now, if this is your first time playing D&D, first time creating a character, sometimes you're going to have to know a little bit about yourself in order to pick a character class that you're going to enjoy playing. You have some basic categories of players. You have your melee class. These are the people that run around with big weapons and hit things. You have your casters. These are people that stand back in the back, and they fire off spells, they fire off just all kinds of magical goodness. In some cases, you may be able to heal your other players, so sometimes that can be helpful as well. You also have your high damage classes, or, you know, some of them are referred to as DPS, because they do high damage per second. And then, of course, you have your healing class characters. So we're going to kind of talk about all of those characters, and those class options throughout this. Now, the book does kind of go in alphabetical order, so that's how I'm going to walk through this with you guys today. Now, as you see here, as we flip the page, the very first class that comes up here is Barbarian. Barbarians, I don't think these guys need a whole lot of introduction. Barbarians, they are going to be your basic, your Conan, your big, beefy characters. They're your tank. They're going to make sure that they, you know, run up and they hit things and they smash things. And that's what they're going to do. This is a class, when you are creating this character, some of the things that are going to be really important, you're going to need to have a high strength. Dex isn't bad, and a high constitution. Those are going to be some of the things that are going to be slightly more important when rolling this type of character. There's always been the ongoing joke about Muscle Wizard Cast Fist. You don't need a lot, necessarily, of intelligence. It might be best if you pick an intelligence higher than 4, if possible. But with this type of character, you're looking at this guy just basically running in and just Hulk smashing everything. Now, one of the things here, it does tell you some of the skills and abilities that you get throughout the levels, and like I said, this is going to be in your D&D handbook. So I'm not going to read through all of that, because those are things that I think that, you know, as the player, I'm going to leave that up to you. If you've played MMORPGs in the past and you really enjoy playing a barbarian, a tank of any kind, this may be a type of character that you are going to enjoy. From here, you know, it's going to talk about various abilities that you get at certain levels. It's going to talk about certain proficiencies. You're going to get certain stat bonuses based upon your class, just like you do with your race. Which we talked a little bit about that last week when we were talking about our character sheet creation. So this is where you're going to get some of those proficiencies, some of those bonuses. It also gives you the option of some of the backgrounds you can select. So that's something to bear in mind. If you do not enjoy having to be the first guy into the fight, Barbarian may not be the class for you. The next class we're going to go ahead and talk about is we're going to go ahead and talk about the Bard. The Bard, there's an ongoing joke about, you know, hey, as the Bard, what's that? Your Barbarian's going in because he's got to make that first hit. You're going to inspire. Bards are great, in a way, support characters. I don't want to make them sound like they're not important. They are. Bards have some really amazing abilities. Amazing cantrips, amazing spells. So, Bards are a little bit of your combination support player. They can be a character that does DPS like a rogue. But they also have the ability to cast some spells. They have some fun ones. Vicious Mockery is kind of a fun one because, you know, one day you just started insulting a goblin. The goblin died. Oh, look at that. That's how you found out you had a special ability. Bards usually have some sort of instrument or entertainer side of them. So if you feel like that is something that fits your personality a little bit better, you know, as far as the role play, especially for your first time, if this is the first character you've ever rolled, that's when you may want to take into consideration as to how much you're going to enjoy it, as to how much you have to go outside your regular personality in order to properly play that information about that character. So like I said, it does mention in here, of course, the magic and the music. These guys are definitely your entertainers. Learning from experiences is another thing that you get through here. These bards can be really fun to play. Because the bard gives you just kind of a different style of play. A little, I don't want to say less serious, because as a bard you do have to kind of be on your P's and Q's and be on your toes about what you're doing, because you can help everybody in your party. So anybody that downplays the importance of having a bard in your group, let's have a talk about that. Your bards can give people inspiration. They can use vicious mockery, which is it's just hilarious. I mean, it can damage the stats for the other player, depending upon what level you're at with your vicious mockery. So bards, I think, sometimes maybe aren't credited as highly as, like, say, rogues, as far as playability, but they are definitely a character that is... I think every party needs a bard, personally. If you don't, we'll have a conversation. Message me and change my mind. They do get spell slots, so like I said, not only do they have the ability to do some melee attacks similar to a rogue, not the same types of things, but they're not doing as much damage as your barbarian or your fighter class. But they do also get spells. Let me take a look here, taking a quick look. Yeah, so it talks here a little bit at the bottom here about bardic inspiration that we've talked about already. Just overall, they're really kind of fun. One of the guys in our group plays a Dragonborn bard. It's a homebrew, and our DM, because he is very experienced for that game, lets us have some more unique characters. Our poor bard. Like, our bard sometimes does more damage than our fighter, which is the fighter that makes me sad. But sometimes, all he because he's Dragonborn, he has this acid spit, and it causes all kinds of, shenanigans. From there, we are going to talk about our next character, which is the cleric. Clerics have a lot of options. Clerics traditionally are healers. They don't have to be, though. They're your spellcasters. They have the ability to fight and heal. They get their power from a deity. However that deity works, that is up to you and your playstyle for your character. That's also going to be based upon your race as well. So as you can take a look here, when it comes to the cleric, and I'm just taking a look here because sometimes it's just a little bit easier for me to see it here. It talks about a lot of your class features and a lot of options that you have. Clerics oftentimes do get kind of roped into the holy man role, but you don't always have to be that. I mean, if you're a dwarf cleric and your deity is Dionysus is the deity of beer. You can really have a lot of fun with it. You also have the ability, depending on how you set yourself up, to have some tanking abilities. But if you are rolling a cleric, you do have to kind of keep in mind that one of the things you do need is you are going to need a good intelligence and a good wisdom score when you're setting up your character, because you have to cast spells. Spells come from your intelligence and your wisdom. Those are where you're going to want to put your top numbers if you are setting up a cleric. Like I said, clerics can be a great... every party needs a cleric or a healer of some fashion. Whether it is a druid, a cleric, I believe paladin is a race in D&D. It's not one I've played, but I've heard people have played it. I think it's still one that 5e kept. We'll find out as we get further down the list. Because like I said, I'm doing this in alphabetical order, and I'm not using a secondary book, I'm just using mine. I probably could have grabbed Grimm's and brought it up here, but I didn't. But I digress. So from here, you have to, one of your abilities is Channel Divinity. Basically, at some point in time, you have the option to reach out to and make a plea to your deity in a really bad situation, and if you roll right, he's going to help you out a lot. You may even get faction with your deity if you roll well. If you don't roll well, however, your deity may not be on your side for that one. But it can be definitely really kind of cool. You can get some really cool holy relics out of that. So yeah, clerics, they're not a boring character. They definitely are a healing class. So just kind of keep that in mind if you consider rolling a cleric. We're going to talk about spells here. I'm just rolling through a little bit here, because this does talk a lot about spells, because they are a class that does cast magic. Oh, druid. No, I did. Okay, no, I was right. We had moved on to druids. How did I miss this? Because I'm short. That's how. Haha, there we go. My pages stick. Cleric. Maybe that's how I missed it. Hold on. I gotta take a look up here. We're gonna take a look. Life domain, light domain. War domain. Oh, no, No, I did. Somehow I flipped. Oh! Nature domain. Okay, so that means that right here. Spellcasting. Okay, no, we are still in cleric. Maybe. Hold on. Cleric. Yep, okay, I just saw nature and instantly thought we'd hop to druid. No, but now we are hopping to druid. Look at that. Alright, okay. We are in druid. Sorry guys, I saw something on that page that just looked druid. It looked druish to me. And so I wanted to make sure that I was still in the right spot. Druids, they are a spellcasting class. They can be a semi-melee class, similar to a rogue or a bard. They're very rarely going to be your main tank, but they can be, if they have, if they're set up right and with the right type of spells. But druids are your nature lovers. They are your shamans. They are, although shaman actually has a different class in D&D, sorry. I'm trying to kind of convert some of this from MMORPG to tabletop RPG. Because I think in today's day and age, a lot of people do play MMORPGs or have played MMORPGs, so sometimes being able to relate those classes to something in the D&D book makes it easier for you folks when you have to create your character. But your druid, they are going to use the nature to fight for them, and with them, and to help them. They do get animal companions. For this, you want to make sure, once again, this is one you want to make sure you have high intelligence and high wisdom. I'm also going to offer a trick, or a hint, so to speak. If you pick druid, please select nature as a skill, or maybe animal handling, something that relates to nature. Can you play a druid without having those two things? Yes. Is your party gonna pick on you? Yes, Nico Hannibal, I'm talking to you. If you were a druid who somehow didn't pick nature? Yes. So just keep that in mind. You might want some nature with your druid. Yeah, we give one of our druids, which happens to be Nico Hannibal, a bit of a hard time sometimes, because I don't remember where we were at in a fight, and it was something in nature we needed identified. And that was when she realized she did not pick nature as one of her skills for her wisdom. So, yeah, it was a sad day. It was a funny day, but it was a sad day for druids everywhere. One of the nice things about these, like I said, in addition to getting an animal pet at a certain point, they can also use nature to their advantage. They can use vines to restrain enemies. Depending on how they pick their skills and their spells. So this one's kind of cool because a lot of D&D adventures do take place outdoors. If you're doing more of the dungeon crawl style, druid may or may not have some disadvantages in that environment. Just depends upon if you've got your pet at that point and if your skills are more in animal handling or in nature. And we're just going to kind of keep on trucking here. So like I said, I jumped ahead of myself. So right here, like I said, beast spells is one of the things it's talking about here. Druid circle, all kinds of fun, kind of neat things you get as a druid. Gives you a little bit more information here about the deities and the gods that the druids worship. Right here, like I said, Landstride, Nature's Ward, Circle of the Moon, gives you some paths you can go down that are definitely nature related. So even if just naturally as a person you are inclined towards things such as that are nature related, if you really like to be outside, if you like to commune with nature and it's your first character and you want to make sure that you're role playing that and you're enjoying it, a druid wouldn't be a bad option. Now on to a class, as you can tell by these tabs I have played, the fighter. Now there is the Crap Guide to D&D, which is a amazing YouTube series. I strongly recommend anybody watch it if they want to have a good laugh. Because with your fighter, well, okay, fighter is a very commonly picked class for people that are new to the game. So they kind of joke that if you're going to play fighter, then you're pretty basic. You're probably going to pick human, do you want more fighter in your fighter? Well, this is how you do it. A fighter is just that. They have a lot of really good weapon skills. They're not quite as brawny as your barbarians, but they can definitely hold their own better than a bard or a druid or a, drawing a blank here on the other class, or a rogue in a session of fisticuffs, so to speak. So definitely make sure that, if you are looking for something that is an easy learning character, a fighter is definitely an easy character to learn with. Because it's a lot of muscle wizard cast fist. It's a lot more like strategically placing yourself in between the parties, your party members with lower armor class versus the parties with higher armor class. You do get some cool skills later on, though. Like with this, you can pick to go several different routes. You can pick Battle Master, which gives you all kinds of maneuvers and speed. Gives you some extra strength, gives you some extra weapons you can use. Like I said, this is a very, if you're concerned about learning to play the game and you want to learn the mechanics more, if you're worried more about learning the mechanics than about the roleplay, playing a fighter isn't a bad route to go. Because it's going to give you the basics, and it's going to let you kind of figure that character out as you go along. So that's, of course, always, a good thing to have happen. Let me take a look here and see what else we've got here. And that's all I can really say about fighter. I mean, you want more fighter in your fighter? That's going to depend on your class. It's fun, but it is definitely a great learning class. The next one from there is a monk. Now, if I have to put this into a character that you can relate to, for lack of a better character, Iron Fist is a monk. They're not someone that uses weapons as much. They may have a staff. They may possibly have some, like, Eskrima sticks, but they are not going to be swinging a sword, at beginner levels anyway. They're basically just channeling their energy to move the opponent to fight back against the opponent. They're going to be channeling the elements. They're going to be channeling their energies. I believe you do want to have you do need to have some dexterity with this one. Just because some of the things, because like I said, unarmored defense, unarmored movement. So you don't even wear armor. You wear cloth on a good day. Let me take a look here. And some of these are higher level, but I'm just kind of taking a look here just briefly. Like I said, it does require a lot of energy channeling, kind of like mana, is one way to think about it. So, it's not a spellcaster class, it is a little bit more like your bard. It does have some magic abilities, but it does also have the ability to, in combat, hold their own. They also have a lot of things that can help other players as well. I don't believe, can you heal with a monk? I believe there is like a minor healing, or maybe like a minor revival skill that you can use, because I happen to recall, I believe one of the characters in a one-shot we did last month was a monk, and she did have the ability to either give people temporary hit points or temporarily revive people, which was something that I wasn't aware that monks had the ability to do. But that's because I don't play healing classes, guys, sorry. I know my own personality well enough to understand that I like to be in the frill of battle, and I tend to not pay attention to anything other than my hit points and where I'm at as far as my battle damage that I'm taking. So me as a healer is just not a good thing to have happen. So I just don't do it. Oh, see, look, Paladin is one. I wasn't out of my mind when I said Paladin earlier. Paladin, they're your armored healer. Oftentimes people kind of lump Paladins in as with your barbarians. Paladins do have the option to heal and tank, because of the fact that Paladins do wear plate mail. Is one of theirs that they don't get it right away, I don't think. Oh, yes, they do. Looks like they do. But it's something that they do definitely have down the road. So having that extra armor, and sorry, I'm just scooting over here just a little bit, guys. Just kind of double check here. Divine Smite. So, like I said, they also have a deity similar to clerics. Your paladin's always fighting for a cause. So keep that in mind if you're picking a paladin. They have always got to have a cause to fight for. Similar to crusaders, but not. Their fighting style is definitely, you can pick it depending upon the route you're going with your paladin. You have the option of defense, where you are there to primarily defend people. You are a duelist. You have a great weapons fighter, so I believe that means you can dual wield when you roll a 1 or a 2 on a damage for an attack you make with a melee weapon you are wielding with... Okay, yeah, so basically it's two-handed fighting. So it's going to basically count for 2 hits. You have your divinity, you have your divine smite, which means that you can hit a creature with a melee weapon attack, and if you use 1 spell slot, that weapon now has divinity. And that comes from your deity. Sometimes you get some extra attacks in there. So, if you're rolling a paladin, you're going to need some high intelligence, some high wisdom, and if you can get some high strength in there, that's going to definitely help you out. Because those are the things you're going to need as a paladin, because a paladin, it not only has the ability to cast spells, but they also can do melee attack as well. So they need to be strong enough to carry through with those attacks. And so we're just going to turn through here. On to the Ranger. The Ranger is another really fun class, and it's a good class for folks that are beginners. But your Ranger is an attack from a distance. Your Ranger, think Legolas in Lord of the Rings. He was a Ranger. He's a perfect example of a Ranger. If you're a Ranger, however, you may want to consider having some animal handling abilities, because I believe there is a point when Rangers do get a pet, which is going to help them out a lot. In addition, ranged fighting. I cannot stress this enough. because a lot of the spells that you get as a ranger, they are designed to enhance your ranged attack. So, the type of attacks you're doing is in the name. Ranger, ranged attack. Ranger, ranged attack. Are we making the connection, folks? Alright. So, with that being said, of course, one of the other things that's important with that is make sure you're taking full advantage of that. I mean, if you are not taking full advantage of the ranger's abilities and the ranger's spells, then your ranger may not be a very fun character for you, because you may feel like the character, I don't want to say is weak, but it isn't living up to its full potential. Because of the fact that it's not living up to its full potential for you, you're not going to enjoy playing it. So, make sure with your ranger, you have a ranged weapon and you do use that ranged weapon. Of course, you have the ability to have melee weapons, but melee weapons are going to come into effect for close quarter combat. So, gonna turn the page here. Like I said, all of these back pages really just kind of talk about is extra abilities that you get at extra levels. So this is one area where your player's handbook can really help you out if you want to take the time to read it. Before you decide what type of character you're going to roll, because as we mentioned yesterday, many times your DM is going to have a day, like the very first day, where everyone rolls their character together. So if you're kind of trying to plan in advance, like, hey, what do I want to play? Or if it's a party you've played with before, maybe you guys already kind of know the types of characters you prefer to play. Maybe it's a new group that you've never played with before, so you don't know what their party's missing. So you want to play it on the fly, but you still kind of want to know a little bit about what type of character you're going to be playing. So sorry about that, guys. Bumped my book. But we're going to fix it. There we go. Alright. Sorry, guys, I'm from Texas. You can't expect me not to mimic Matthew McConaughey at least once or twice. Now the character we've spoken so much about, the rogue. The rogue is your sneaker. Your rogue is the person that is there to check traps, to unlock doors if they're locked. Always check your doors to make sure they're actually locked. They also are your short little damage per second machines with stabby stab, stabby stab, stabby stab. They don't have a lot of armor, though. You're going to want to make sure if you are rolling a rogue that you have high dexterity. It doesn't hurt to have decent strength, as well as decent charisma. Those are things that are really going to help with your rogue and all of your little roguish abilities. Rogues a lot of times do get specialty bonuses in darkness, under partial cover, all kinds of kind of like fun, crazy little quirky things that, you can kind of join in on the fun with as a rogue. The reason charisma is important, though, is sometimes if those checks fail. If you fail a check, you may have to find a way to talk your way out of that situation now. If you're pickpocketing someone, if you are doing a sleight of hand and you fail your dice roll, your charisma is going to come in as very important. That is what you use to persuade people that you weren't really doing anything wrong. So here it talks about your equipment. You're using short swords, bows and arrows, hand crossbows, small, tiny weapons. That is what the rogue is known for, is small, compact weaponry. So just kind of keep that in mind anytime you are playing a rogue. They're all about stealth. This is your Assassin's Creed character right here. You love Assassin's Creed? Play a rogue. You will love it. That is going to be what that's going to be your bread and butter. That's what's going to make sure that you enjoy playing that character. And like I said, I enjoy Assassin's Creed, and I've never played a rogue, actually. But I'm just kind of giving that as an example of, if you like this, you may enjoy this in the D&D world. Now, the next class we are going to be moving on to is the Sorcerer. I'm not sure if the Sorcerer really needs any explanation. That right there, he is your spellcaster. Well, your major spellcaster class. As you get up in level with your Sorcerer, that's going to depend upon what direction you're going. But these guys are your spellcasters. They stand back in the back, and they cast Fireball, 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 Fireball. One complaint I have heard from some people playing a spellcaster when they first start is sometimes people don't check the space on their spell, and it can very quickly lead to a TPK. Some of your spells you have to pay attention to the direction that you're casting. So it may say that it casts from you out 25 feet. What that means for your party, though, is anybody that is in front of you within that 25 feet, or sometimes it'll say it goes into a cone of 25 feet. Each of your party members could potentially take damage if you cast that spell. So sorcerers, from what I understand, are a little bit more complicated to play as a newer player to D&D. I'm not discouraging you from doing it, however. These are just things that I want you to be aware of, so that when you get ready to pick your character, you're picking something you're going to enjoy. That way you're going to get the most out of the game, and you're going to enjoy it the most. There are also templates you can get if you're any type of spellcaster. As mentioned, I always pick mine up at my local shop here, Nightwatch Games here in San Antonio. That, or talk to your local shop. If they don't have some sort of template, they're clear, they're plastic. I wish I had them up here with me right now. I'd show them to you. And you can literally lay them over the map and see where your spell is going to, kind of what the area effect of that spell is going to be. Talk with your local game shops, because if it's not something that they carry in stock, it's probably something that they can order for you and get in a relatively reasonable amount of time. So your sorcerers, they're going to get a lot of their abilities from intelligence and wisdom, because sorcerers have studied for their magic. So that's something to keep in mind there. They are a cloth-wearing class, so they are not going to be able to take a lot of physical damage. So they are a type of character that does require being protected by the beefier members of your party, your barbarians, your fighters, your paladins. They've got spellcasting, they've got cantrips, which we may talk a little bit about that next week. I'm not sure, because we're not to next week yet, so I don't know what we're talking about next week yet. Gives you various origin stories, various different backgrounds, talked about wild magic a little bit. And now onto our warlocks. Warlocks are fun. They are in some ways they're a dark magic type character. I know lots of people that love playing warlocks. They can be a lot of fun. You get to summon familiars. You have spellcasting abilities. You're a little bit beefier than a sorcerer, not by much. It's just your spells tend to be a little bit heftier. Not a class that I am super familiar with, so I may actually have to lean over my book here for a minute and just kind of bring myself up to speed on my warlocks while we're talking about this and doing this. So let's take a look here. So yeah, like I said, we've got our magic packs, which usually your arcane research and the magic bestowed to you by your patron had given you a facility with spells. Gives you Pact Boon, and this is of course a 3rd level, your otherworldly patron. So in games like World of Warcraft, they had like a Voidwalker, or an imp that was your character's like pet. So you do get that, kind of like a ranger. You're kind of like a magic casting ranger, or a magic casting druids do cast magic, but it's a dark magic. A lot of fun. Like I said, a lot of people I know really enjoy that. Let me take a look here. Yeah, see, so here you have, they call it an Archify, a Fiend, or Great Old One. So those are going to be the options you're going to have as far as your pets when you get to that level. Once again, your armor is cloth, but you do get some things like Armor of Shadows, where you can cast magic armor on yourself at will without expending a spell slot or any materials or components. So that's going to help you be a little bit beefier in that combat situation. You can read all writing because, of course, you study a lot to become a warlock. And this brings us on to wizards. So wizards are the light side of a warlock. Wizards do not necessarily, I don't think they get a pet or a familiar. Once again, they study to become what they are. They were not born with natural magic, they have to work. And think of it, because guess what? You're a wizard, Hemi! School of Hogwarts. They are all learning to become wizards. Some of them may have some natural magic ability, some of them may not. But ultimately, this is where it's going to lead for them. Gives you the schools of magic that you have the options of studying. Your equipment. Once again, you are a cloth wearer. There is a whole lot that you can really do here. And ta-da! That tells you, and this takes us back to personality and background, which we're not even going to talk about, because we were just talking about classes today. So, I mean, really, if this is going to be your first time playing D&D, I strongly recommend at least reading, each page has kind of like that first paragraph. Let me get back to it here, since we're close to one, for wizards. So, in this particular case, it's right over here on the second page. It's this little blurb here that just gives you a little bit more about the character's background. That's really going to be what's going to help you the most when it comes to picking the character class that you are going to enjoy playing. There are a lot of classes. Like I said, we just went through a whole ton of them. So it's not that there's a shortage of classes, but sometimes it's a matter of playing a character that works for you. If you are new and you are playing in a more experienced party, you may even want to talk to your DM and just kind of, break it down from, hey, since I'm new to this, if I create a character that I don't like, or I'm not enjoying playing this character, is there any way that I can bring in another character in X amount of time? Because really playing all the different classes is the only way you're going to find out if you are not good at, if you don't like playing them. Like I said, I am less likely to play a healer. Now I will play a spellcaster, just not a healing class spellcaster, because for me, I'm just not good at it. I'm really honest about that with myself. So definitely picking your class and picking your character, that is something that is definitely unique to each individual person. There isn't one particular class that is better than another. I think there are some that are easier to get the D&D mechanics with. Like I said, fighters make it pretty easy. Barbarians are relatively hassle-free, so to speak. But there's no reason you can't choose to be a sorcerer, a wizard, a druid, a rogue. Whatever works best for you is what's going to work best for you and your personality and your playstyle. So guys, I'm pretty sure that is pretty much all we're going to have for Tabletop Tuesday today. As always, this is Shield Maiden here. If you guys have liked what I've done, don't forget to go ahead and click that like button up at the top. I can also now be found here at YouTube, so make sure that you also hit that subscribe button. That way you are alerted to every time I post a brand new video, so you aren't left out on any of the fun adventures. So guys, for now, this is going to be Shield Maiden signing out. As always, everybody, fly those geek flags high.
you.